Studying someone's mind doesn't mean you need a psychology degree. It means you need awareness, presence, and the courage to pay attention. Most people don't listen to understand. They listen to respond. But when you really start watching how people behave, what they repeat, and what they avoid, that's when you begin to understand how their mind works. People tell you everything about themselves and their patterns, not in their Instagram bios, not in their words, but in what they do over and over again. You want to know someone's values? Don't ask them. Watch how they spend their time. That's where the real answers are, because actions are the fingerprints of thought. This world is filled with noise, distractions, and assumptions. But if you want to study someone's mind, you have to turn down the noise and tune into the details. It's about noticing when someone shuts down during conflict or lights up when they talk about their goals. It's about observing what makes them tick, noticing when they withdraw, what energizes them, what drains them, and what makes them hesitate. These small moments speak louder than any monologue ever will. When someone avoids a topic consistently, that tells you there's fear, trauma, or insecurity tied to it. When they obsess over control, that tells you there's uncertainty buried in their past. When they always try to please, it's not just kindness, it could be survival. Your job isn't to judge it. Your job is to understand it. You don't study someone's mind by labeling them. You do it by leaning in with curiosity. You study people by asking questions, not making assumptions. Ask them what matters to them. Ask what scares them. Ask what success means to them. Ask how they define love, failure, happiness. Their answers will open a window into their belief systems. Most people don't even know they're operating from old mental programming. Their fears, their triggers, their insecurities, they're on autopilot. But once you start listening without trying to fix, without trying to control, just observe, you start learning how people are wired. We live in a society where we've been conditioned to perform instead of connect. But when you take the time to pay attention, to slow down and truly watch and listen, you begin to see the patterns behind the personality. The mask drops. And that's when the real insight begins. This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding. Because when you understand how someone thinks, you can support them, influence them, or protect yourself from them in a way that's grounded in truth, not fantasy. We often think understanding others is this rare skill that only therapists or empaths possess. But it's actually just a matter of presence. The truth is, if you slowed down and started tracking people's language, energy, and choices, you'd be shocked how predictable most behavior is. People repeat what feels safe. People avoid what feels painful. And people project what they haven't healed. When you see this, not only do you start to understand others, you also begin to understand yourself. Because studying someone else's mind teaches you to reflect on your own. Why do you react the way you do? Why do you trust certain people more easily than others? Why are you drawn to chaos or silence or control? It all connects. This isn't just about them. It's about you too. Understanding someone's mindset helps you improve your relationships, your communication, your leadership, and your self-awareness. You stop reacting blindly and start responding wisely. Here's the truth. If you want to be effective in life, in relationships, in business, in your own growth, you need to learn how people think. Because once you understand someone's mind, their behavior stops being a mystery. You can see past the excuses, past the masks, past the temporary moods. You begin to understand what drives them, what scares them, what limits them, and what could help free them. That's power. That's empathy. That's wisdom. So slow down, watch closely, listen deeply. The mind always leaves clues. You just need to care enough to notice. When you really want to study someone's mind, you have to start with one fundamental truth. People are driven by emotion far more than logic. We like to think we're rational beings making smart decisions based on facts, but most of the time it's our emotions steering the wheel and our logic justifying it afterward. That's the secret. If you want to understand how someone thinks, you have to understand how they feel. Because feelings are the fuel behind thought patterns, and thought patterns shape behavior. You're not just observing words, you're observing the emotional energy behind those words. That's where the truth lives. Think about the last time someone lashed out, went silent, or made a strange decision. It probably made no sense to you logically, but to them, it felt right emotionally. That's the key. What feels right to someone often is right to them, even if it makes no rational sense. So when you're studying someone's mind, don't get stuck on their surface decisions. Ask yourself, what were they feeling in that moment? Fear, shame, joy, insecurity, confidence? Their emotional state is the real compass behind their behavior. If you ignore it, you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. The problem is, most people never learned how to express their emotions properly. So what do? They bury them. They act out. They go cold. They distract themselves. That doesn't mean they don't feel. It means they're trying to protect their mind from overwhelm. And if you can understand that, if you can see the fear behind anger, the sadness behind arrogance, the insecurity behind perfectionism, then you're studying their mind at a much deeper level. You're not judging the surface, you're decoding the source. This is where empathy becomes your greatest tool. Empathy doesn't mean agreeing with someone. It means you're willing to understand where they're coming from emotionally. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Because when you can emotionally connect with someone's inner world, you gain insight into their thoughts, motives, and choices. And that knowledge becomes influence, not in a manipulative way, but in a grounded, human way. Influence built on understanding is influence that actually lasts. Now, let's talk about triggers. Emotional triggers are one of the fastest ways to study how someone's mind works. Watch what sets them off. Watch what they defend aggressively, what they avoid constantly, what they talk about with intense passion or pain. Triggers are doorways into belief systems. If someone gets defensive when you question their success, maybe they've tied their worth to achievement. If someone breaks down at the mention of trust, maybe they've been betrayed. These reactions aren't random. They're rooted in mental programming, and studying those reactions gives you the blueprint to someone's inner world. But here's the challenge. To really study someone's emotions and mind, you have to silence your own ego. That means you can't take things personally. You can't get offended when someone shuts down. You can't get frustrated when someone reacts irrationally. You have to stay curious, not critical. Because the second you get defensive, you stop learning. Understanding someone's mind takes patience. It takes observation without control. You have to let go of your need to fix, change, or direct them. Just watch, just feel, just absorb. One of the most underrated ways to study someone's emotions is through their language. The way people speak, their word choice, tone, timing, tells you everything. Some people use language to uplift. Others use it to deflect, dominate, or hide. Pay attention to how people speak about themselves. Do they use empowering language or self-deprecating phrases? Are they constantly joking to avoid seriousness? Are they quick to criticize others to avoid vulnerability? That's not just style, that's psychology in action. And don't overlook silence. Silence can be louder than speech. When someone goes quiet, it's not always emptiness. It's processing, protecting, or shutting down. Study that silence. What preceded it? What kind of topic silences them? What emotion sits behind their withdrawal? There's so much depth there, if you're willing to sit with the discomfort and dig beneath it. The truth is, most people are craving to be understood, even if they don't know how to express it. When you show up and genuinely study their emotions without judgment, you're giving them a kind of safety they may have never experienced. And in that safety, people reveal themselves. Not just their behavior, but their beliefs, their wounds, their dreams, their fears. And once you can see that clearly, you're not just studying someone's mind, you're connecting to their humanity. That's where real transformation begins. When you want to study someone's mind, you have to understand that most of what drives people lies beneath the surface. It's not just what they say, it's why they say it. It's not just what they do, it's what made them believe they had to do it. People are operating from a set of beliefs that were shaped by years of experiences, influences, and sometimes pain. Those beliefs form the lens through which they see the world. If you can figure out someone's belief system, you'll be able to predict their decisions, their reactions, even their relationships. That's the real insight. That's where understanding begins. The fastest way to uncover someone's beliefs is to pay attention to their repeated thoughts. People reveal their inner wiring through the things they repeat: phrases, attitudes, excuses, compliments, complaints. The words people repeat are signals. They tell you what they believe about the world, about success, about themselves. When someone constantly says, "I'm just not lucky," they believe outcomes are outside their control. When someone keeps saying, "No one ever listens to me," they believe their voice has no value. That belief didn't come from nowhere. It came from experience. Maybe it came from childhood, maybe from trauma, maybe from failure. But it's there, and it's now running the show. If you want to study someone's mind, you have to become a pattern recognizer. Look beyond the isolated moments. Anyone can be confident one day and fearful the next. But the patterns don't lie. Is this person always seeking validation? Do they struggle to trust others? Are they overly critical? Are they always playing it safe or constantly chasing approval? Those patterns are reflections of deep-rooted beliefs. Your job isn't to fix those beliefs. Your job is to understand where they came from and how they affect behavior. And sometimes the beliefs people operate from are hidden even from themselves. That's why people repeat the same mistakes. That's why they sabotage their own progress. That's why they get stuck in toxic relationships or careers that make them miserable. They're not stupid. They're not lazy. They're running a mental program they don't even realize is active. And you can't help someone or protect yourself from someone until you see the program they're running. That's the power of studying the mind. It gives you the awareness to stop being confused by behavior and start understanding the belief beneath it. So how do you get to those beliefs? You ask the right questions, not surface level ones, but deep, intentional ones. What scares you the most about failing? What does love look like to you? Who made you feel like you weren't enough? What would happen if you stopped proving yourself? These kinds of questions aren't just conversation, they're keys. They unlock the mental and emotional framework someone lives in. And once you have access to that framework, you begin to see their world the way they see it. That's when connection becomes real. That's when trust starts to grow. That's when you stop reacting to their behavior and start responding to their reality. But don't expect everyone to open up right away. Studying someone's mind takes time, consistency, and emotional safety. People only reveal what they feel safe to share. So if you're coming from a place of judgment or control, you'll never get close to the truth. But if you show up with presence, patience, and no hidden agenda, people start letting you in. You create space for honesty. And when someone finally feels seen, really seen, they don't need to wear masks anymore. They drop the act. That's when the mind opens up. You also have to study how people respond to conflict. That's where their core wiring comes through. Do they fight, freeze, flee, or fawn? Do they lash out or shut down? Do they listen or do they defend? Conflict is a pressure test for the mind. It reveals what people believe about safety, love, control, and power. If you're paying attention, conflict teaches you more about someone's inner world than calm ever will. At the end of the day, studying someone's mind isn't about having power over them. It's about understanding how to show up for them, how to protect yourself, and how to build relationships based on truth, not illusion. It's a skill that changes how you lead, how you love, how you communicate. Because when you know how people think, you know how to connect. And connection, real, honest, grounded connection, is what makes life meaningful. One of the most underrated skills you can develop in life is the ability to study someone's mind through their body language. Words can lie. But the body? It tells the truth. Every single time. When someone says they're fine, but their shoulders are tense, their eyes are darting, and their hands are clenched, you know they're not fine. When someone claims they're confident but avoids eye contact, fidgets with their clothes, or keeps checking their phone, their body is betraying their mind. Most people don't realize they're constantly communicating without speaking. If you learn to read those signals, you get access to what's really going on inside. Body language is a direct window into someone's subconscious. Why? Because it's automatic. It's not filtered or polished like speech. The nervous system speaks through posture, movement, tone, and facial expression, and the more emotionally charged the situation, the more honest the body becomes. When people are relaxed, they're open, they lean in, they make eye contact, their tone flows naturally. But when they're threatened or anxious, they fold in, they pull away. Their speech becomes rigid, short, or overly rehearsed. And if you're observant, you'll see these changes instantly. That awareness gives you the upper hand, not to manipulate, but to empathize and respond better. It's also important to look for incongruence. That's when what someone says doesn't match what their body is doing. For example, someone says they're excited about a new opportunity, but their energy is flat, their face is tight, and they're tapping their foot nervously. That mismatch is a signal. Something's off. Maybe they're saying what they think they should say. Maybe they're scared to admit how they really feel. Your job in that moment isn't to call them out, it's to pay attention. That disconnection between words and body tells you more about their mental state than the words themselves. And then there's tone of voice. It's not what people say, but how they say it. You can say I'm fine 100 different ways, and each one communicates a different mental state. Is it sarcastic, flat, defensive, dismissive, soft? The tone gives away emotion. It reveals whether someone feels safe, angry, nervous, or excited. Listen to the pace, the pitch, the volume. Fast speech often signals anxiety. Slow speech could mean thoughtfulness or disinterest. A high pitch might be excitement or stress. A low, steady tone often reflects confidence or calm. If you tune into tone, you can hear the emotional truth behind the words. Physical space is another clue. How close someone chooses to stand or sit near you says a lot. People who feel safe and connected tend to reduce space between them. People who feel guarded or uncomfortable create distance. If you're in a conversation and someone slowly backs up, it's not random. It's instinct. Their mind is signaling discomfort. On the flip side, if someone leans in or mirrors your body language, they're engaged, connected, and open. These are powerful cues if you're paying attention. You can also study someone's mind by noticing how they carry themselves in different environments. Do they walk into a room with confidence or hesitation? Do they dominate space or shrink in it? Do they seem at ease in groups or withdraw into the background? All of these behaviors are rooted in beliefs. People who don't feel worthy often make themselves physically small, crossing arms, hunching, avoiding eye contact. People who feel secure tend to expand. They take up space without even trying. Studying someone's physical presence gives you clues into how they view themselves in relation to the world. But don't just look at a single behavior. Look for patterns. One moment of nervousness doesn't mean someone is insecure. One bold statement doesn't make someone confident. But when you consistently see the same posture, tone, reactions, and expressions in different situations, that's when you begin to understand someone's mental default. That's when you're really studying their mind, not based on guesswork, but on consistent evidence. All of this comes back to one core principle: be present. Most people are too busy thinking about what they're going to say next to really observe what's happening in front of them. But when you slow down, when you watch, when you listen, not just with your ears, but with your full attention, you start picking up on things that others miss. That's the edge. That's the power. The ability to read a room, to understand someone's internal state without them spelling it out, to sense when something's off. That's how you build real connection and insight. Studying body language isn't about perfection or becoming some kind of human lie detector. It's about being more aware, more tuned in, and more intentional in your interactions. The more you observe, the more fluent you become in the unspoken language of the mind. And once you master that, your ability to lead, relate, and respond transforms completely. Empathy is the most powerful tool you can use when studying someone's mind, and yet it's the one most people overlook. We often think of empathy as a soft, emotional response, something you use when someone's in pain or going through a hard time. But in reality, empathy is one of the most strategic, insightful tools for understanding how people think. When you practice empathy, you're not just feeling for someone, you're thinking with them. You're stepping inside their perspective, asking yourself, if I had their past, their beliefs, their fears, their experiences, how would I think? How would I act? That shift in perspective is everything. Most of us go through life seeing people through our own filters. We assume everyone thinks like we do, values what we value, and makes decisions the same way we would. That assumption is what leads to miscommunication, frustration, and broken relationships. Because people don't think like you. They think like them. They are shaped by a completely different set of circumstances. If you want to study someone's mind effectively, you have to put your ego aside and stop filtering their behavior through your own lens. You have to meet them where they are, not where you are. Empathy doesn't mean excusing bad behavior. It means understanding where it comes from. There's a massive difference. If someone lies to you, empathy doesn't say, "That's okay." It says, why did they feel the need to lie? What fear or belief drove that decision? Maybe they've been punished in the past for telling the truth. Maybe they grew up in a home where mistakes were never safe to admit. That doesn't make lying acceptable, but it makes it understandable. And that understanding gives you insight. It gives you the power to navigate the situation more wisely, more compassionately, and with better boundaries. Studying someone's mind through empathy also helps you avoid overreaction. When you react emotionally to someone else's emotional outburst, you lose the ability to observe. But when you respond with curiosity instead of offense, you stay in control. You get to ask, what's really going on here? Maybe that angry coworker isn't just rude. Maybe they feel unimportant and unheard. Maybe your friend who's been distant isn't just lazy. They're battling anxiety they haven't told anyone about. You don't get that level of understanding through assumptions. You get it through empathy, by looking past the behavior and into the story behind it. The key is to ask better questions, not just to others, but to yourself. Every time someone does something confusing, frustrating, or disappointing, pause and ask, what must this person believe to act this way? What story are they telling themselves? What pain are they carrying? What outcome are they trying to avoid? Those questions shift your mindset from judgment to learning. They help you decode behavior and begin to truly understand how someone thinks and feels. And sometimes empathy means recognizing the mind someone is trying to hide. Some people put on a confident front, but inside they're consumed by self-doubt. Some act tough because softness was never safe for them. Some chase success like their life depends on it, because somewhere deep inside they believe their worth does depend on it. The louder the performance, the deeper the wound. Empathy helps you see through that performance. It helps you hold space for the part of the person they rarely show, even to themselves. But to practice empathy deeply, you have to do your own inner work. You can't study someone's mind if you haven't started studying your own. Your triggers, your judgments, your emotional reactions, they all cloud your ability to truly see others. The more self-aware you become, the more space you create to understand others without projection. You'll start to notice when your frustration with someone is really about you. You'll recognize when your assumptions are based on your past, not theirs. And that awareness makes you far more effective, not just in studying others, but in showing up powerfully in your own life. The truth is, people want to be understood more than they want to be agreed with. When you understand someone's mind, when you really get where they're coming from, you don't have to fix them. You don't even have to change them. Just being understood is powerful enough to shift someone's mindset, to soften their defenses, to open their heart. That's how connection is built. That's how trust is earned. And that's how relationships, whether personal, professional, or even with strangers, go from surface level to deeply meaningful. So if you want to become someone who truly studies minds, don't just observe from the outside. Step in. Feel what they feel. Think how they think. See the world through their eyes. Because once you can do that, you stop reacting to people and start understanding them. And when you understand people, you don't just become more compassionate, you become unshakably wise.